What do you think is happening around the world in terms of not just the war?
Yeah.
What do you think is happening? Where are we headed
I
towards?
think overall, in the last maybe like 8, 9 years, very much national. Okay? Every country is trying to be like just looking after themselves. Okay? Nationally, like you look at like Donald Trump is one of them, big time. A lot of people would not like me saying that, but I strongly believe that he really messed up the U.S. You have people like Putin. You have people in North Korea. You have people like even in like Italy, Hungary, and all those who are like really dictator type of people. Yeah? If you go back 10, 15 years back, this thing didn't happen. A lot of people would like think like the world is flat. People start like helping each other. Now it's all about me, and that's really dangerous and scary. People are just trying to protect themselves. And then when you see what's happening in Ukraine, and everybody is like saying that's not right, but nobody's there to help, and that scares me. The superpowers that have nuclear powers and all can pretty much, they don't need to be liked by anybody. They can just keep going to do what they want. Like so, Russia doing this now sends a signal to China. Hey, maybe you can go and take over Taiwan, and that's what's happening. पहिला भयो चाहिँ नि अब पहिला when even like China took over Tibet, right? There was all these protests, but like nothing happened. Then that completely stopped. I mean, have you ever heard in the last 20 years like a different country taking over another country? Eh? You don't even think about it. Now it's like reality, and that scares me.
No, I
it's-
agree with you.
yeah,
I agree with you. The democracies of the world need to go out and definitely help out on the democracy.
Exactly.
I believe in that. I'm a humongous believer in democracy. Yeah, the freedom to choose, the freedom to express yourself, the freedom to go ahead and be who you want to be.
Yeah.
त्यही त हो नि freedom
Yeah,
भनेको.
freedom. And so the whole concept of, and the younger generation, they embrace it and all, but the whole idea that I mean, your COVID quick case, if you happen to be in a country like USA, you get these vaccines, but then you have countries that's not getting the vaccine, right? So and they make policies like we need to keep it for ourselves. So people are starting to look at very myopically just their world. Okay? They're not looking at the big thing, and I think that's the biggest problem that the people, the humans these days are facing. Instead of thinking like, we have places like Nepal, Africa, and all. How do you uplift them? You have like World Bank and UN and all, but they're kind of being helpless when all these big, politicians and all make these decisions. But the whole idea of like trying to bring the rest of the countries around the world to some level is like really being pushed back.
The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Exactly.
Like there's a humongous divide कि एउटा ठुलो divide थियो कि कोभिड टाइममा के थियो भने हरेक व्यक्तिले मेरो स्ट्यान्ड त्यतिखेर पनि त्यही थियो, अहिले पनि त्यही नै हुनेछ, जिन्दगीभरि त्यही नै हुनेछ. हरेक मान्छेले आफ्नो टेबलमा आफ्नो परिवारको लागि खाना राख्ने मौका पाउनुपर्छ. त्यसमा कुनै शङ्कै छैन हैन. And nobody should stop that person. Man, woman, it really doesn't matter. आफ्नो टेबलमा आफूले काम गरेर खाना राख्ने मौका त पाउनु पर्यो नि हैन. या त हेरिदिनु पर्यो स्टेटले.
Exactly.
हेर्नु त पर्यो नि त नि. सो इन्टरनेसनल संसारमा पनि त्यही लाग्छ जस्तो लाग्छ कि त मलाई हैन. कुनै देशले अथवा कसैले गरी खान खोजिरहेछ भने या त मद्दत गर्यो तर उसलाई रोक्न चाहिँ नरोक्नु.
Exactly. Yeah, that's freedom. Freedom for the basic needs, right? Freedom for survival, freedom for all those things.
And now when we're looking at around the world money, it's very tragic ke da. Ani अस्ति again I've been following the Russia-Ukraine thing like from day one, right from the get-go, and it's really sad to see the kids ke da. त्यहाँ त्यो रहेछ कि अहिले बच्चाहरू अहिले पनि war again it's not just Russia-Ukraine, it's any war torn country हैन. बच्चाहरू अहिले पनि त्यो सबवे स्टेसनमा हुन सक्छ, अन्डरग्राउन्ड बङ्करमा हुन सक्छ, पढिरहेछन् के त. पढिरहेछन्. I'm sure they're still studying. Kids will find a way to study के. हुन्छ नि, they're still studying. I gave SLC के अरे एउटा मैनबत्तीको भरमा. थिएन नि त मेरो बेलामा त लाइटै थिएन
Load
त
shedding भनेको त yeah, I totally get you.
लाइटै थिएन त क्यान यु इमेजिन अहिले आएर सोच्दाखेरि होइन अहिले आएर सोच्दाखेरि होइन त्यस्तो पनि दिन थियो जस्तो लाग्छ कि तर बत्ती थिएन क्या दाइ
Isn't that amazing? The amount of pressure, like to जाँचको लागि पढेर चाहिँ नि दिमागमा राख्ने कि बत्तीको चाहिँ नि yeah, it's
And it's very tricky then. When I think about war-torn countries or developing nations, imagine the kids. I always think about the kids.
Yeah.
Forget about my generation. I have done my part. I'm in my 30s, and you're in your 60s. If that's okay, if I can say that. But imagine somebody who is like 5, who is 8, who is 10, who is 12, who are still trying to go out and get their shit done. Trying to learn. They're going to be the next generation.
Yeah.
And we need to think about the next generation. Okay? But here, the leaders of, again, I can take thousands of names. I know the leaders, I don't know if they're thinking of the next generation or the generation after them. Okay?
No.
I
I really don't think either. They're looking after themselves. And the scars these kids have, So, like, let me just give you my own experience. My childhood was so... Forget about like my childhood was so much fun. I can still go back like 50 years, 55 years, like even like 60 when I was 7 years. Like so much fun, right? That's not the same these days, right? Things are so complicated and complex. But like when I was small, having to worry about like food and all didn't even exist. Very few people. You had farms everywhere. Like if you can't afford to buy, you had a piece of land that people can do. And I'm not talking about just the city. Even in the villages, हरेकको गाउँमा त के न के. And look at now, when you walk in the cities and all, in Nepal and elsewhere, there, it's crazy. The inflation. And the people that suffer are the kids. Like they really don't know what's going on. Like when you talk about the kids in Ukraine, a lot of these kids, they don't know what's happening. They just know like something's happening, bombs and people getting killed.
Yeah.
And the scars. Like I still remember that image. You probably seen that image. To Syria, about a bacha, like, all that thing happened. That the little kid that was washed away in the shore. It's like, and people move on. And they go to the next big thing.
It's always the same.
Yeah,
it's always the same. But at least in my lifetime, I want to do things that's going to definitely make the next generation better. And you're doing the same thing too.
We have to make change. I think everybody should do something. Whatever it is, any little piece to make things better.
If you love what we are doing, make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications.
Subscribe. This program is brought to you by Vyas Studios.